Part 1. The False Peace Captain. Marcus Vale stood on the bridge of the merchant vessel New Dawn, watching the stars through the viewport. 3 years had passed since the Zephyrian Empire destroyed humanity's outer colonies. The galaxy thought Earth was finished. Trade ships like his moved carefully through space, avoiding military zones and paying tribute to alien overlords. The Zephyrians were cruel masters. Their blue-scaled faces showed no mercy as they collected taxes from human ships. They had 7-foot frames and weapons that could melt steel. When they attacked the colonies of Kepler 442 and Ross 128, humanity's small defense fleet was crushed. In hours, over 500,000 humans died in those attacks. Marcus remembered the broadcasts. Children crying as cities burned, families torn apart by plasma fire. The Zephyrian Admiral Kextar had announced that humans were now a servant species. Earth's government agreed to the terms. No military ships, no weapons research, just trade and silence. But Marcus knew something the aliens didn't. Deep in Earth's ocean trenches, hidden facilities had been working for decades. Project Leviathan wasn't just a name. It was humanity's secret weapon, sleeping in the depths while the galaxy watched the surface. His communication officer, Lieutenant Rosa Martinez, turned to him with wide eyes. "Captain, we're getting strange signals from the Mariana Trench. Deep-frequency transmissions." Marcus nodded calmly. He had been waiting for this moment. "What kind of signals, Rosa?" "Military codes, sir. Old ones from before the war. But they're using new encryption. Across the galaxy, similar messages were being sent to human vessels. Code words that meant one thing: the time has come." On the Zephyrian homeworld of Zerthok, Admiral Kextar reviewed reports in his war room. His advisors stood around a holographic display showing human shipping routes. Everything looked normal. Weak merchant ships carrying goods between worlds, no military presence, no threat. "The humans are broken," one advisor said. "Their spirit died with their colonies." Kextar's reptilian eyes gleamed. "Good. A broken enemy is a useful enemy. They mine our crystals and transport our goods, perfect servants." But deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, massive doors were opening. Hangar bays that had been sealed for 30 years groaned to life. Inside, ships waited in the darkness. Not the small patrol vessels the aliens had destroyed. Not the merchant ships they allowed to operate. These were warships built in secret, designed for one purpose: total war. Fleet Admiral Jackson Cross stood in the command center of the underwater base. His gray hair showed his age, but his eyes burned with purpose. Around him, technicians worked, at stations that had been dark for decades. Screens lit up showing ship status, weapon systems, and crew readiness. "How many ships are operational, Commander Hayes?" he asked his second-in-command. Commander Victoria Hayes checked her tablet. 247 vessels, sir. All classes, from destroyers to dreadnoughts. The shipyards have been busy." Cross smiled grimly. "And the crews?" "Volunteer. Veterans, sir. Every man and woman here lost someone in the colony attacks. They've been training in secret for 3 years." Cross walked to the main display. It showed a map of the galaxy with Zephyrian positions marked in red. Their fleets were spread thin, occupying dozens of worlds. They believed humanity was finished. That overconfidence would be their downfall. "Begin Phase 1, Cross ordered. "Activate all sleeper agents. I want enemy positions, fleet movements, and command structures. The Zephyrians taught us that surprise wins wars." Around the galaxy, humans in seemingly harmless jobs began to act. Dock workers planted tracking devices on alien ships. Merchants gathered intelligence about military bases. Restaurant servers listened to officer conversations. For 3 years, they had waited and watched. The galaxy was about to learn that breaking humanity's colonies had only awakened something far more dangerous. Part 2. The Hidden Fleet Commander. Victoria Hayes piloted her stealth fighter through the asteroid field of the Ceres Belt. Her mission was simple but crucial: test the Boar, new cloaking technology that would make humanity's counterattack possible. The Zephyrians had destroyed Earth's known fleet, but they had no idea what humans could build when they were angry. Her ship, the Shadow's Edge, was invisible to all known sensors. Years of secret research had produced a cloaking system that bent light and energy around the hull. To enemy scanners, she was just empty space. "Command, this is Shadow Leader," she whispered into her comm. "Beginning approach to Zephyrian Patrol Station Beta 7. The alien outpost hung in space like a metal spider. Its long arms reached out in all directions, scanning for human ships that might violate the peace treaty. 8 Zephyrian fighters orbited the station in lazy patterns. They weren't expecting trouble. Victoria smiled coldly. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They thought humans were like them, direct fighters who attacked head-on. They didn't understand that humans were hunters who used stealth and cunning. Back on Earth, in the hidden command center beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Admiral Cross watched dozens of similar tests. His stealth fighters were mapping every Zephyrian position in human space. The aliens saw nothing, detected nothing, suspected nothing. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb from the intelligence station, "we've identified the location of Admiral Kextar's flagship. It's in the Proxima system with a battle group of 12 heavy cruisers." Cross nodded. "Perfect. What about their main fleet?" "Scattered across 7 systems, sir. They're using our trade routes as patrol zones. Each group has 20 to 30 ships." The Admiral studied the tactical display. Red dots showed enemy positions, while blue dots represented human assets. For every red dot, there were 3 blue ones nearby. The Zephyrians had no idea they were surrounded. Captain Diana Foster sat in the pilot seat of the dreadnought Retribution. Her ship was the largest vessel in humanity's secret fleet, armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Around her, the crew prepared for their first combat mission in 3 years. "Engineering report," she called out. "All systems green, Captain," replied Chief Engineer Tom Bradley. "The quantum torpedoes are loaded and the plasma cannons are charged. This ship is ready for war." Diana looked at the main screen showing the Kepler 442 system, the site of humanity's first colonial massacre. The Zephyrians had built a military base there, using it as a symbol of their victory. Soon, it would become a symbol of their defeat. In the medical bay of the same ship, Dr. Jonathan Pierce checked his supplies. He had volunteered for this mission after losing his daughter in the colony attacks. Every human aboard had a personal reason for being here. This wasn't just military duty. This was revenge. Meanwhile, on the merchant vessel Peaceful Trader, Captain Elena Vasquez continued her normal supply run to the Zephyrian outpost at Wolf 359. Her cargo hold was full of medical supplies and food, or so the manifests claimed. Hidden beneath the legitimate goods were weapons, communication devices, and combat armor for human resistance cells. The Zephyrian customs officer, a tall reptilian named Sector, boarded her ship for the routine inspection. His scales were dark, blue, and his eyes were yellow slits. Like all his species, he looked down on humans as inferior creatures. "Show me your cargo, human," he hissed in broken English. Elena led him through the cargo bay, pointing out crates of bandages and protein bars. Sector scanned them with his energy detector and found nothing suspicious. He didn't know that human technology had learned to hide metal signatures and energy patterns. "You may continue," he said dismissively. "Remember, any violation of the treaty means death." Elena nodded humbly. "Of course, sir. Humans only want peace." As the alien left her ship, Elena smiled. By tomorrow, the weapons in her cargo hold would be in the hands of human fighters on 12 different worlds. The resistance was growing stronger every day. Back in the hidden fleet, Admiral Cross received final reports from all sectors. Every ship was in position. Every weapon was ready. Every crew member knew their target. 3 years ago, they thought they broke us, he said to his assembled captains over the secure comm channel. Tomorrow, they learn what humans do when we stop playing nice. The secret fleet powered up their engines. Cloaked and invisible, 247 warships began moving toward their targets. The Zephyrians still believed they ruled human space. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The Zephyrian base at Kepler 442 floated silently, in the void where human colonies once thrived. Commander Zekmar stood on the observation deck, watching his patrol ships move in routine patterns. 3 years of occupation had made him lazy. The humans were broken, their spirit crushed. There was no threat here. His communication officer, a young Zephyrian named Veltar, approached with a puzzled expression. "Commander, we're detecting some unusual energy readings in the outer system." Zekmar barely glanced at the report. "Probably solar flares or asteroid impacts. The humans don't have ships capable of military action." What Zekmar didn't know was that 50 human warships were already in his system, invisible to his sensors. Captain Diana Foster's dreadnought Retribution led the assault force, its quantum torpedoes armed and ready. "All ships, this is Retribution Actual," Diana whispered into her comm. "Target confirmation complete. The enemy has 43 vessels in this system. Remember, we hit fast and hard. No survivors who can warn the others." Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, piloting the destroyer Vengeance, checked his weapon systems one final time. His ship was small compared to the dreadnought, but it carried enough firepower to level a city. Like every human in the fleet, he had lost family in the colony attacks. "Weapons hot, targeting the orbital defense platforms," he reported. Captain Sarah Chen's cruiser Justice took position near the enemy supply depot. Her ship carried specialized hacking equipment designed to disable Zephyrian computers. The aliens thought their technology was superior, but human engineers had spent 3 years learning to crack their systems. Admiral Cross watched the battle preparations from Earth's hidden command center. Tactical displays showed the positions of every human ship, every enemy target, and every possible escape route. This had to be perfect. One mistake would warn the entire Zephyrian Empire. "Begin Operation Payback," he ordered quietly. The first shots were fired simultaneously across the Kepler 442 system. Quantum torpedoes, invisible to Zephyrian sensors until the moment of impact, struck the main base's shields. The energy barriers designed to stop conventional weapons couldn't handle the focused quantum energy. Commander Zekmar was thrown to the floor as his station exploded around him. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the base. "What's happening?" he shouted. Veltar frantically worked his controls. "Unknown attackers, sir. Multiple ships decloaking throughout the system. How did they get past our sensors?" Through the viewport, Zekmar saw something that chilled his reptilian blood. Human warships, dozens of them, emerging from invisibility like ghosts materializing from the void. These weren't the small patrol boats his forces had destroyed 3 years ago. These were massive vessels built for one purpose: war. The dreadnought Retribution fired its main guns, sending streams of superheated plasma toward the Zephyrian command ship. The alien vessel's shields flared and collapsed under the assault. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as internal systems overloaded. "Direct hit on the enemy flagship," reported Diana's weapons officer. "Their command structure is down." But the human assault was just beginning. Destroyer Vengeance swept through the enemy fighter squadrons like a shark through minnows. Its rapid-fire plasma cannons turned Zephyrian interceptors into expanding clouds of debris. The aliens tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't lock onto targets they couldn't see. Human stealth technology made their ships appear and disappear like phantoms. When Zephyrian gunners fired at one position, the human ships were already somewhere else. Captain Chen's cruiser Justice reached the supply depot and deployed its hacking pods. Within minutes, the alien computer systems were compromised. Automated defenses turned against their own ships. Navigation systems failed. Communication arrays went dark. "This is impossible," Zekmar screamed as his base shook under continuous bombardment. "Humans don't have this technology. They're a primitive species." Veltar looked up from his ruined console, fear in his yellow eyes. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. It's not just here. Our bases at Wolf 359, Tau Ceti, and Proxima Centauri are also under attack." The truth hit Zekmar like a physical blow. This wasn't a desperate last stand by broken humans. This was a coordinated assault by a hidden fleet that had been watching and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. On the human command channel, reports poured in from all strike teams. Kepler 442 base neutralized. Wolf 359 supply depot destroyed. Tau Ceti patrol fleet eliminated. Every target was falling exactly as planned. Admiral Cross allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 was complete. The Zephyrians' forward positions were gone, their communication networks disrupted, their supply lines cut. But this was just the beginning. All ships prepare for Phase 2, he ordered. Time to visit the Zephyrian homeworld. In the ruins of the Kepler 442 base, Commander Zekimar crawled toward his emergency transmitter. He had to warn Admiral Kekstar about the human fleet. But when he reached the device, the screen showed only static. Every communication relay in the system had been destroyed. The humans had learned from their defeat 3 years ago. They understood that information was as important as firepower. By cutting off enemy communications, they ensured that each battle would be fought in isolation. As the last Zephyrian ship exploded in the distance, Diana Foster stood on her bridge and thought about the colony children who had died in the system. Their deaths had been avenged, but the war was far from over. Set course for the next target, she ordered. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. Admiral Kekstar paced in his flagship's command center, his clawed feet clicking against the metal deck. For 6 hours he had received no communications from his forward bases. Static filled every channel. His massive frame, nearly 8 feet tall, cast long shadows as emergency lighting flickered throughout the bridge. Status report, he demanded, from his communication officer. Sub-Commander Rathek worked frantically at his console. Still no contact with Kepler 442, Wolf 359, or any of our forward positions, Admiral. All relay stations show as offline. Kekstar's yellow eyes narrowed to slits. In 30 years of military service, he had never lost contact with so many bases simultaneously. His instincts, honed by countless battles, told him something was terribly wrong. Deploy reconnaissance drones to all affected systems, he ordered. I want visual confirmation of our bases within the hour. What the Admiral didn't know was that human stealth fighters were already surrounding his fleet. Captain Marcus Vale, now commanding the destroyer Silent Death, watched the massive Zephyrian dreadnought through his targeting system. The enemy flagship was 3 times larger than his ship, but size meant nothing when your opponent couldn't see you coming. This is Silent Death to all strike teams, Marcus whispered into his comm. The target is confirmed. 67 enemy vessels in tight formation. They have no idea we're here. Commander Lisa Park, piloting the heavy cruiser Ghost Rider, positioned her ship behind the enemy fleet. Her vessel carried experimental weapons designed specifically to penetrate Zephyrian armor. Human scientists had spent 3 years studying, captured alien technology, learning its weaknesses. Targeting the enemy's engine clusters, she reported. If we disable their propulsion, they can't escape to warn the homeworld. The human fleet had grown since the first strikes. Ships that had been hidden on distant moons and asteroid bases now joined the assault. Captain Robert Thorne's carrier, Phantom Wing, deployed dozens of stealth fighters, each one invisible to enemy sensors. Lieutenant Colonel Jessica Hayes led the fighter squadron from her cockpit. Her small ship could dance around the massive Zephyrian cruisers, striking weak points that larger vessels couldn't reach. Remember, we target their sensor arrays first, blind them before they know we're here. Admiral Cross monitored the battle from Earth's command center. This engagement was crucial. If even one enemy ship escaped, the entire Zephyrian Empire would know about humanity's secret fleet. The element of surprise would be lost. All ships, weapons free, he transmitted. Show them what 3 years of preparation can accomplish. The attack began with surgical precision. Human fighters struck the Zephyrian sensor arrays with quantum torpedoes, leaving the alien fleet deaf and blind. Before the enemy could react, the main human force decloaked and opened fire. Admiral Kekstar was reviewing tactical displays when his ship shuddered under massive impacts. Alarms screamed throughout the bridge as his officers scrambled to their stations. Report, he roared. We're under attack, shouted his tactical officer. Multiple human vessels, sir. They appeared from nowhere. Kekstar stared at his main screen in disbelief. Dozens of human warships surrounded his fleet, their weapons blazing. These weren't the small patrol boats he had crushed 3 years ago. These were purpose-built instruments of war. Impossible, he hissed. We destroyed their fleet. We monitors their shipyards. Where did these ships come from? His science officer, Zaltek, worked frantically at his sensors. Sir, I'm detecting stealth technology far beyond what we believed humans possessed. They've been watching us for months, maybe years. The destroyer Silent Death fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes at the enemy flagship's bridge section. The weapon struck the command tower with devastating effect, sending explosion after explosion rippling through the alien vessel's superstructure. Direct hit on the enemy bridge, reported Marcus's weapons officer. Their command systems are failing. But Kextar wasn't finished. The Zephyrian admiral had survived 30 years of warfare by being both cunning and ruthless. Even as his flagship burned around him, he was already planning his next move. Emergency Protocol 7, he ordered his surviving officers. Scatter, the fleet. Some ships must reach home to warn the Empire. The Zephyrian vessels broke formation, each ship fleeing in a different direction. They were fast, and their engines were powerful. If even a few escaped, they could alert the homeworld. But even as he spoke, human electronic warfare specialists jammed his transmissions. His warnings dissolved into static, never reaching their destination. Captain Vale watched through his bridge viewport as the last enemy ship exploded in the distance. The Zephyrian fleet that had seemed so powerful just hours ago was now nothing but wreckage floating in space. All enemy vessels eliminated, he reported to Admiral Cross. No survivors, no escape pods, no distress signals transmitted. From Earth's command center, Cross smiled with grim satisfaction. Phase 2 was complete. The Zephyrians' main fleet was destroyed, and their homeworld still had no idea what was coming. Excellent work, all ships, he transmitted. Now comes the final phase. Set course for Zerthok. It's time to finish what they started. The Zephyrian homeworld of Zerthok hung in space like a blue-green jewel, its 3 moons casting shadows across the planet's surface. Massive orbital defense platforms surrounded the world, each one bristling with enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. The planet's leaders felt safe behind their shields and weapons, unaware that death was approaching from the darkness between stars. Fleet Admiral Jackson Cross stood in the command center of the dreadnought Final Justice, his flagship for this ultimate assault. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of 300 human warships, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. This wasn't just about victory anymore. This was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Sir, reported Captain Elizabeth Warren, his tactical officer. All strike groups are in position. The enemy has 47 defense platforms and over 200 ships in the system. They're confident in their defenses. Cross nodded grimly. Confidence can be a weakness. Begin Phase 3. Target the communication satellites first. I want this planet isolated before we announce our presence. Across the system, human stealth fighters moved like invisible predators. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Foster led a squadron of 12 ships toward the main communication array, a massive structure that relayed messages across the Zephyrian Empire. Remember, precision strikes only, he transmitted to his pilots. We disable their ability to call for help, then we reveal ourselves. The attack began in silence. Quantum torpedoes struck communication satellites throughout the system, turning them into expanding clouds of debris. Within minutes, Zerthok was cut off from the rest of the galaxy, unable to send distress calls or coordinate with other fleets. On the planet's surface, Chancellor Vexani stood in the emergency council chamber, her blue scales darkening with anger. She had ruled the Zephyrian Empire for 20 years, crushing dozens of rebellions and expanding their territory across 3 star systems. What do you mean we've lost contact with the outer worlds? She demanded of her communication minister. Minister Keldar worked frantically at his console. All channels are down, Chancellor. Our deep space relays have gone silent. It's as if something is systematically destroying our communication network. Vexani's clawed hands gripped the edge of her command table. Send scout ships to investigate. I want answers within the hour. But the scout ships never made it past the inner system. Human destroyers, still cloaked and invisible, intercepted them one by one. Each Zephyrian vessel that ventured beyond the planet's immediate vicinity simply vanished without a trace. Captain Diana Foster, now commanding the massive dreadnought Retribution, watched as the enemy grew increasingly desperate. "They're starting to panic," she observed to her bridge crew. "They know something's wrong, but they can't figure out what." Her weapons officer, Commander James Mitchell, smiled coldly. 3 years ago, they thought panic was a human weakness. Time to show them they were wrong. Admiral Cross checked his chronometer. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The Zephyrians were isolated, confused, and vulnerable. Now came the moment he had been waiting for since the colony massacres. "All ships decloak," he ordered. "Let them see what they created." Across the Zerthok system, 300 human warships shimmered into visibility. They appeared everywhere, at once, behind the defense platforms around the orbital shipyards near the planet's moons. The Zephyrian defenders found themselves surrounded by a fleet that dwarfed their own forces. Chancellor Vexani stared at her tactical displays in horror. Red symbols representing enemy vessels filled every screen. "Where did they come from?" she whispered. Her military advisor, General Thekvar, was equally stunned. "The humans, Chancellor. These are human ships. But this is impossible. We destroyed their fleet 3 years ago." Vexani's eyes widened with understanding. "Not their fleet, their visible fleet. They've been building in secret while we thought them broken." A transmission came through on all frequencies. Admiral Cross's face appeared on every screen throughout the system, his expression cold and determined. "People of Zerthok," he began, his voice carrying across the void. 3 years ago, you attacked human colonies without warning. You murdered children, destroyed cities, and thought you had broken our spirit. You were wrong. On the planet's surface, millions of Zephyrians watched in terror as the human fleet moved into attack formation. The orbital platforms that had seemed so powerful now looked tiny, compared to the massive human dreadnoughts. "You gave us a choice," Cross continued. "Submit to slavery or face extinction. Today I offer you the same choice. Surrender your fleets. Dismantle your weapons and accept human oversight of your military. Refuse, and share the fate of your colonies." Chancellor Vexani activated her emergency broadcast system. "This is Chancellor Vexani to all Zephyrian forces. We will never surrender to inferior humans. All ships, all platforms, open fire." The Zephyrian response was immediate and massive. Hundreds of energy beams and missile barrages filled space, all targeting the human fleet. For a moment, the void between worlds became a brilliant light show of weapons fire. But the human ships had been designed with Zephyrian weapons in mind. Advanced shields deflected most attacks, while point defense systems destroyed incoming missiles. The few hits that got through barely scratched the reinforced armor. "Their weapons are less effective than projected," reported Captain Warren. "Our shields are holding at 95%. Admiral Cross smiled grimly. "Now show them what human weapons can do. All ships, fire at will." The human counterattack was devastating. Quantum torpedoes struck the orbital platforms with pinpoint accuracy, overloading their reactors and turning them into miniature suns. Plasma cannons swept through the enemy fleet like scythes through wheat. Captain Foster's Retribution targeted the largest Zephyrian dreadnought, a vessel twice her ship's size. Her main guns fired in sequence, each shot finding weak points in the enemy's armor. Within minutes, the alien warship was breaking apart under the assault. "Enemy flagship destroyed," she reported with satisfaction. The battle lasted only 3 hours. The Zephyrian fleet, designed to intimidate primitive worlds, couldn't match human technology that had been specifically built to defeat them. One by one, their ships were destroyed or disabled. On Zerthok's surface, Chancellor Vexani watched her dreams of empire crumble. Her military advisor approached with a grim expression. "Chancellor, we have no choice. Our fleet is gone. Our defenses are down. If we don't surrender, they'll bombard the planet." Vexani stared at the tactical display showing the wreckage of her forces. "How did we underestimate them so badly?" General Thekvar shook his head. "We saw what we wanted to see. A broken species begging for mercy. We never imagined they were preparing for war. With trembling claws, Vexani activated the surrender beacon. Across the system, Zephyrian ships powered down their weapons and began broadcasting capitulation signals. Admiral Cross received the surrender transmission and nodded to his communications officer. "Patch me through to their leadership." "Chancellor." Vexani's image appeared on his screen, her proud bearing now replaced by defeat. "We surrender, Human Admiral. What are your terms?" Cross considered his words carefully. "Complete disarmament, war crimes trials for those responsible for the colony attacks, reparations for the families of the victims, and a new treaty that recognizes human sovereignty." The Chancellor's scales darkened further, but she nodded. "Agreed." As human ships moved to secure the system, Admiral Cross thought about the children who had died in the colony attacks. Their deaths had been avenged, but more importantly, they had given birth to something new, a human military that would never again allow such atrocities. The galaxy would remember this day, the day humanity stopped hiding and started fighting back. The enemy had thought they were broken, but they had only awakened something far more dangerous: human determination. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun.